Okay, like I said, I'm a little bit nervous today. It might take me a minute to get into it. All right, so stepping into spring, cannabis for depression and inflammation, a little bit of a play on words. Now, neither depression nor inflammation are qualifying conditions on the state's medical marijuana program. However, we do find that many of our patients presenting with their qualifying condition also present with depression and also depressive episodes. So we see this enough that we definitely want to address it. And when you speak to your pharmacist during your consultation, or if you're going to schedule another consultation, we do like to know everything that's going on with you, not just what you were approved for. So please share with us your symptoms and other disease states that you may have been diagnosed with so we can help you, because it's really about exploring the healing potential of the plant. And we're going to be talking about inflammation. And we're going to talk about why depression and inflammation go hand in hand. So hopefully we'll all be journaling tonight. I actually was speaking to a patient today who said last month when she was listening, she was busy in her kitchen and she wished that she had her notebook out to take some notes, especially about the terpenes. So here's a really good chance for you to grab a notepad and a pen or a paper. So the first couple of Canna Convos this year, the first one was about pain. We talked about uncovering the gems inside of us. And then we talked about PTSD, and we talked about noticing glimmers. So a glimmer is anything that you might experience during the day that makes you feel safe, that makes you feel emotionally stable and connected, and to hold on to those glimmers tight. Last month, we talked about medicating with intention. So as we learn the healing properties of the plant and all the benefits that we can get out of it, mentally, physically, and emotionally, I invite all of us to start, a medication session with an intention of what you want to get out of it. So really being present and aware with how you are medicating. So as I talk tonight about the benefits of cannabis and different products, think about your symptoms, think about how what I'm talking about relates to you and how it affects your lifestyle and how you want that to improve. Also looking at your day-to-day and thinking about when you can medicate with different products so you can do it safely. Always consider your tolerance, what you feel comfortable with, and what you feel functional with. And also remembering that cannabis is dose dependent and you can get a lot of benefit maybe without using too much. So also considering how much you're using. And then having clear outcome markers. So really understanding what success looks like to you. I'm going to outline some concepts tonight. And then celebrating the relief. So tonight we're stepping into spring and really where we're going. So taking that step in which direction though. And I think that that's what happens with depression is that we tend to feel lost and disconnected and not really knowing which way is up. And so I'm going to invite us tonight to take that first step towards ourselves, to going inside of ourselves. So this is a great quote. You presume you are a small entity, but within you is enfolded the entire universe. So taking a second to think about that and how much really is inside all of us. So there's the physiology of our body, there's our bones, there's our blood, there's our cells, but there's something more to us that really makes us human, right? And that's what we want to focus on as well. So remembering to be kind to ourselves. I always like to tell our patients, be as kind to yourself as you are to your best friend. So if you're going through a rough time, or if your friend is going through a rough time, you don't keep piling it on for them. You try to make it better, right? You just say, well, maybe you didn't get all the things done on your to-do list, but hey, let's celebrate the 3 out of the 5 things that you did do. These small ways on how we focus on ourselves can make a profound difference. And celebrating each step towards self-care. Some of us joining the call tonight might be in the midst of a pretty strong depressive episode. And taking these small steps, getting on this call is a huge win to celebrate because you're recognizing that there's something more that you can do for yourself. And I think that's amazing. So all of us celebrating that we're here tonight as a step towards your self-care and remembering how resilient you are. You've made it this far, you're going to make it, and it's going to get better because we are all here together for one another. So let's talk a little bit about depression. As I was saying earlier, it's not a qualifying condition, but it does tend to go hand in hand with many people struggling with a chronic illness. So we may find ourselves having an aversion to activity, so not really motivated to do much, a persistent feeling of sadness, unjustified feelings of worthlessness, and loss of interest in things that we used to enjoy. So in your journal, think if you have noticed any of these, a feeling of emptiness or disconnection. So maybe you are with people, maybe people in your own family, in your own household, but you feel you feel a type of isolation. Are you having angry outbursts or getting very frustrated over small matters? Maybe you've been sleeping all the time and you don't feel refreshed, or maybe you haven't been able to sleep well in a long time, no matter what you've tried. You're feeling a lot of anxiety or persistent nervousness. If you find yourself fixating on failures. Now, we talked about in the PTSD convo that the human mind is wired to focus on the negative, and that's actually for our evolution, and it's a form of protection. But that's why we want to make a conscious effort to not fixate on those failures, be kind to ourselves, and celebrate each small step that we take. You may find that you've been having trouble concentrating. Maybe you have a nervous stomach, or you don't have much of an appetite and you're not able to eat and you've been losing a lot of weight. Or maybe you're eating too much and eating too much of the wrong foods and you've been gaining a lot of weight. You may find yourself struggling to make decisions, being very indecisive, and a lack of motivation. Maybe your hygiene isn't as good. Maybe you have struggling to take a shower, struggling to go to work, get your work done, or study, or finish all of your homework. And sometimes happiness just feels out of our reach. So depression and inflammation. So we're going to talk, when I talk about inflammation tonight, it's going to be inflammation that, of course, is involved with depression, but of course, the inflammation that we all deal with, whether it's from any type of arthritis, a pain condition, an autoimmune disorder, inflammation is still inflammation. So, but why I'm talking about inflammation and depression is that research is now suggesting that inflammation is actually a pathway to depression and a potential for treatment. So the immune system responds with inflammation to protect the body. And that could be if you have a virus, it could be if you've had an injury, the body's going to kick into an inflammatory response to help protect the area. The problem is when that inflammatory response doesn't get shut off and that inflammation becomes chronic. So chronic inflammation damages cells and organs and increases the risk for many diseases: heart disease, cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, and now we're learning that it also contributes to depression. So when we can measure certain inflammatory markers like interleukin-6 and C-reactive protein, and they noticed that people who had higher levels of those inflammatory markers actually also showed a loss of interest in activities that they previously enjoyed. So those are clear-cut markers about what we're talking about with inflammation and depression. We're going to talk about why cannabis is good for inflammation, also the inflammation process in our central nervous system, and also why it's good for different parts of that whole depressive process. So 21 million US adults are living with depression. And most people, and probably a lot of people on this call, have been prescribed or tried some type of an antidepressant, which could be something like a Prozac, for example. And that's treating the serotonin levels in our central nervous system. But that is just a theory. And I really like to empower our patients to let them know that if you were on an antidepressant or if you're taking one and you don't feel that it's very helpful, it doesn't have the highest success rate. So antidepressants, even when they're used with psychiatric or psychological treatment, yields remission for less than 50% of patients. So it really is only about 30%. That means it only works for about 3 out of 10 people. So that's 7 out of 10 people who are being treated with antidepressants are not finding relief. But they did an interesting survey in 2016 that showed that 86% of people using medical cannabis for depression had symptomatic relief. So most people use cannabis for insomnia and anxiety, but many people also use it for depression. So look at that. They surveyed people and 86% of them said their depression had relief from using medical cannabis. And what's interesting also to note is that CBD does interact with our serotonin receptor. THC probably doesn't, but CBD does. So just a nice, interesting little overlap. So finding our way through the constellation of symptoms. So depression is really hard to treat because there's so many different combinations of symptoms and everybody is so different. So if you have been diagnosed with major depressive disorder, it's 5 out of 9 symptoms, and that yields over 200 possibilities or combinations. So it's such a variety of symptoms and individual differences among patients. And you guys know that's why I love medical cannabis, is that it can be so tailored to each individual, because again, there's that wide therapeutic window. You can take a lot or you can take a little and you're still going to get benefit without harmful side effects. Also, the underlying mechanisms of what causes depression is not completely understood. And also the emotional component of the disorder is often ignored. So when we talk about the endocannabinoid system in depression, we're going to be talking about mood, genetic factors, stress, inflammation, and even nerve generation. So it's some pretty cool stuff that we're going to be talking about here. So I wanted to start with a case study, and I wanted to start with the case study this time because I want to give a clear picture of what a positive outcome can look and feel like. Because those of us who have been dealing with depression for a long time, I know we don't remember. I don't remember what we are striving. Like, it's hard to remember what that goal is. What are we striving for? What does it feel like? What does that look like? So this patient started in the program just a couple of weeks ago. It was an honor to work with her. I'm very inspired by her. She's 36 years old. She's struggling with complex PTSD, depression, insomnia, chronic pain, chronic nausea. She was honest. She said she does struggle with her personal hygiene. She does struggle with intrusive thoughts, flashbacks, panic attacks, and she's actually currently on disability. So in her own words, she said, "I'm a hot mess." Her medications right now are Ritalin and Trazodone, and she's been smoking recreational cannabis, and she said that she has a very high tolerance. And one thing I always think is fascinating also is that we have lots of patients who've been, smoking or using marijuana for years or even decades. But when we start to really hone in and be terpene specific or cannabinoid specific, we really see people improve so quickly, even though they were using THC cannabis for so many years. So this is the regimen that we agreed upon. We use the 1-to-1 oral syringe, which is made by CT Pharma, and each 10th of an ml yields just about 25 milligrams of CBD and 25 milligrams of THC. So remember, she has a high tolerance. I checked in with her lifestyle. She doesn't get up in the morning and drive. She's not going to work. She's not taking care of small children. So 1/10 of that sublingually morning and afternoon, with instructions to titrate up if she felt like she needed to. At night, we did the Indicol AB full spectrum syringe from Advanced Grow Labs, a size of a piece of raw rice, because you do that visually, evening and bedtime, and choose to titrate up. And she was going to continue to smoke as needed, and we went over what she was going to purchase, so we were strain and terpene specific. Now, she titrated up on the nighttime on the Indicol AB full spectrum fairly quickly because, again, she does have a high tolerance, and she even titrated a little bit on the doses in the morning and the afternoon. And I'm a really strong supporter of using higher doses, maybe the first 2 weeks of a regimen, to like hit that reset button with the endocannabinoid system and to really get it going. And of course, she had experience, so she's what we would call like cannabis aware. She's not cannabis naive. So taking all these factors into account when we recommend a regimen to a patient. So 2 weeks in, I had a follow-up with her, and she said, "I feel that Zen happiness that you described." So that's coming to that point of stillness where the glass doesn't have to be half empty or half full. It can just be half. So maybe focusing on the idea of being content rather than this maybe this Hollywood idea of happiness that we have. So focusing on that content, and that's what I kind of call that Zen happiness, where your shoulders are finally out of your ears. You feel more positive thoughts than negative thoughts, or you can reroute your thoughts more easily to positive thinking and away from negative thinking than you would without. And that just that calm sense of happiness, not that you need to go run a marathon or you need to paint your house or anything like that, but just something calm and pleasant feeling, which I think to a lot of us on this call is kind of appealing, right? Like that would be a nice feeling. It's hard to get that, especially in today's society and how busy we all are. So my homework for her was enjoy this space for the next week to 10 days and don't try to do everything that you've been putting off or that you've been wanting to do. Explore how you are in this space of stillness and quiet and wellness. And don't try to do all of the things on your to-do list that you haven't touched in a couple of months because of the depression. So again, being kind to yourself, exploring within to understand who you are and what you can handle and what you want going forward. And then I'll meet with her again in a week or two, and then we're going to take it from there. One thing that she also does that I should have put on the slide is that she volunteers once a week, I believe at an animal shelter. And really participating in some type of act of service is also very healing when it comes to depression and anxiety. So I was really impressed that even though she was a self-proclaimed hot mess, she was still getting out once a week to do that. So again, that's what I was saying. She's really inspiring to me. So I feel good right now. I feel like we got the target, and we're going to keep working together. And I see good, really great things for her. And then after another week, she's probably not going to need me. She's going to be good to go. So the endocannabinoid system, what makes cannabis medicine? So THC and CBD are what we call phytocannabinoids. They're the molecular components to the cannabis plant that makes cannabis medicine. But what's really fascinating is that we, as humans, our bodies make its own versions of these cannabinoids, and they're called endogenous cannabinoids. And so first they discovered the structure to the THC molecule. Then they discovered that we had receptors in our central nervous system, organs, tissues, and our immune cells that fit THC like a lock and key. So they said, wow, why do we have these receptors for something that comes from a plant? And in the early 1990s, they discovered our first natural cannabinoid, and they named it anandamide. And that's named after the Sanskrit word for bliss, ananda. So that's your supreme joy molecule. There's also another natural cannabinoid. It's called 2-AG. So they put all of this together. They put together the fact that we have these receptors and we have these natural cannabinoids and we have a whole system in place for this to work in the body. They named it the endocannabinoid system. And it's really a complex molecular signaling system. And it's actually present in almost every physiological function in the human body. Now, that's really important, especially because, again, these sessions are really about empowering us on our choice to use marijuana as our medicine. And so we know that there is a lot of differing opinions out there about medical marijuana. So if you look at qualifying conditions for a state's medical marijuana program, they vary so greatly. So you look at something like ALS and Parkinson's, but there's also Crohn's disease as well as PTSD. So it almost seems like detractors will say, oh, it's like snake oil. How can one molecule, one medicine be good for so many different things? Well, the endocannabinoid system is the answer to that. Again, so we have cannabinoid 1 receptors in our brain, our central nervous system, and also in our organs and tissues. We actually have more receptors for cannabinoids in our central nervous system than for anything else. And we have the CB2 receptor present on our immune cells and our organs, and that's where the inflammation gets controlled. All right, so they put all of that together to discover the endocannabinoid system. More recent studies these are 2 quotes from more recent studies. Its function cannot be presented as a list of individual items because it's really a wide interconnected network. And it's evident that the correct functioning of the endocannabinoid system is necessary for maintaining mental health. So the endocannabinoid system is so important in the wiring of our central nervous system that they're now saying that if it is not working properly, the chances are you'll start seeing symptoms of depression and symptoms of anxiety. Okay, so really making sure that our endocannabinoid systems are functioning well. So what are some of the roles of our endocannabinoid system? Regulating our response to pain, can stimulate hunger, plays a part in the brain's reward pathway. That's why you feel that euphoria from it. Regulates our mood and our emotions. And I think a lot of us know that about our mood. We know that if we use something from the dispensary, we're a little bit nicer, we're a little bit calmer. reduces anxiety and depression. It's also involved in learning and memory processing, which we spoke about during the PTSD kind of convo. It also mediates inflammation. So really what it is, it's a regulating system. If something is off course, it'll come along and bring it back to normal. But if something is doing okay, it will leave it alone. And that's why you don't see some like side effects that you see from pharmaceuticals, because it's working with your body. So the phytocannabinoids that we're going to be talking about are the ones that are most prevalent in the program right now in Connecticut. THC. THC is, I'm sorry. So there's over 100 phytocannabinoids to the plant. THC is the most famous and the most prominent, and also, interestingly enough, the only one that gives you that euphoria or that sense of feeling high. CBD is actually the second most prominent chemical component to the plant. I'm going to be talking about that on the next slide. THCA we have in an oral solution and in a spray. It's the acid precursor to THC. It really gives you the medicinal benefits of THC without the head high. So that's looking like an anti-inflammatory, again, a regulator for many of our symptoms. And people also have found that it helps with anxiety. Also like to recommend that for some patients who are struggling with tremors. CBN or cannabidiol, we have in some combination products with THC. I think AGL right now has them in gummies and tablets. And then CT Pharma is saying that their CBN tablets will be back, but I've been waiting for a couple of weeks. So the phytocannabinoids are the molecular components of the cannabis plant that into our cells cannabinoid receptors or affect our cannabinoid levels, resulting in that physiological change. I want to spend some time talking about CBD because as I do the research for these events, there's just more and more information coming about regarding CBD. So CBD differs from THC in a number of ways. And one of them is that it interacts with more than 65 molecular targets across the body, where it seems that THC really only interacts with the cannabinoid 1 and 2 receptors. I have seen, and we've seen at the dispensary for years, best results with consistent and consecutive dosing. So that can look like a low dose that you take standard every single day. Or maybe if we're working towards a specific goal, we'll do something a little bit higher and more intense. So consistent and consecutive dosing. So not really using it as needed is the point of that. And then also administration of CBD, when we talk about chronic stress, and I think we know how damaging chronic stress is that CBD can actually help protect the body and the body's functions from chronic stress. So it's a neuroprotective, which means it actually helps protect our nerve cells, and it's also an anti-inflammatory. And what I thought was pretty cool is that there's currently a couple of clinical trials, so actual CBD used on actual people for depression. So cannabidiol for treatment-resistant depression. They're actually using a product called Epidiolex, which is a CBD product that has been approved for children with challenging seizure disorders. And they're also going to be they're also doing a trial cannabidiol for bipolar depression. So just letting you guys know that these things are happening and the science is progressing. And I guess everyone's going to know what we know, right? That medical marijuana is as beneficial as it is. So a couple of factors, because again, depression is, oh, Tanya, yes, are you raising your hand? I'm sorry.
That's okay. Can you hear me all right?
I can.
Someone was asking what CBN helps with.
Oh, that's a great question. Okay, so CBN, what we've learned, I would say just in the past year, as we've seen more products come into the dispensaries. So we really just thought it was this sleepy cannabinoid that, you know, THC might get you high and you fall asleep. CBN just gets you sleepy and you fall asleep. So what we've learned by using it and what I've learned from patients' feedback and working with patients, that it's also been effective for some patients for muscle spasms and also for anxiety and stress. So when you're looking to calm down, but you're not looking to be disoriented with THC, CBN is a good option. It's another option besides CBD and THCA. I also believe strongly in using as many parts of the plant as you can. So what we would call like a full spectrum. That's hard to get without it being too potent in THC, and then the psychoactive effect is too strong, and then you're not getting enough. You have to use a little bit, so then you're not getting enough of the CBN or the THCA or the CBD in it. So sometimes it's easier to use them separately so you can get enough of each one. So CBN, definitely patients have come back and told me it's very helpful for anxiety during the day without being disoriented. And again, also with muscle spasms. And then also it's very good for sleep. All right, so we're going to be talking about the endocannabinoid system, cannabinoids, and different parts of what can contribute to depression. So first of all, mood. So let's talk about feeling really good on cannabis, right? It's that euphoria, and it's hitting the dopamine receptors for our brain's reward pathway. And we know that we can become less irritable and more tolerant. And we're going to be talking at the end when I do the products about strains and terpenes for motivation. So a lot of times patients will call the dispensary or come to the dispensary and say, what's good for depression? And I think you guys are used to me saying this now. I'll have so many follow-up questions. So that could be that, you're lacking motivation for a couple of days, or maybe that day you woke up and you didn't feel like you wanted to do anything. So you're like, okay, I'm going to maybe go get a sativa so I can get myself going. That's great. That's absolutely perfect. That's what you want to do. And we'll focus on the right strains and the terpenes. And that's more of like an as needed, quick onset type of treatment for what you're going through, that symptom of the depression. But there's also some, treating it from a marathon approach and the sprint approach. So always making sure you have the tools in your toolbox to help you out of a flare or an acute situation, but also something that's giving you consistent dosing and consistent coverage to help moving towards the healing process. So mood when we use cannabis is from the CB1 receptor. And what's also important to note when we talk about the emotional aspect of recovering or getting through depression, there's what we're going to talk about, which is our cells and the physiology, but that emotional component, we're the ones who have to do that hard work. And I have found that combining cannabis with some of these self-care practices, it makes that hard work that maybe you've been working on with your therapist for quite some time. Maybe you're not getting as far as you'd hoped, but combining cannabis with those practices, I see really great results with a lot of patients. Okay, so endocannabinoids actually regulate not just our mood, so not just if we're happy or if we're mad, but our confidence, our anger, our guilt, our shame, our regret. So using cannabis to help you work through that is really beneficial and has helped a lot of people. And we enjoy doing that with our patients. Also, genetic factors, there is a genetic component to depression. And so women actually have more of a chance than men of hereditary depression. So it's 42% chance, where men have a 29% chance. And that could play a part with our CB2 receptor gene. So stress and the HPA axis, our stress is also controlled with our HPA axis. So now with PTSD, when we talked about stress and anxiety, I was focusing on anxiety and fight or flight, and I saved the stress response to this episode talking about depression. Now, this first thing that I have here, stressful life events contribute to developing depression. That's oftentimes and not just for depression, but I believe for any type of disease. I will ask you during our consult, have you had any major illnesses as a child or any major traumatic events? You don't need to share what those traumatic events are. If you're keeping track in your journal tonight, maybe make a note of that. Maybe you don't want to visit that now, but definitely thinking about the stressful life events contributing to our depression now, right? And chronic stress actually lowers the levels of our naturally occurring endocannabinoids, which are supposed to be there to help keep us in a good mood and turn off that stress response. So stress is like inflammation. The initial part of it is beneficial. So you're supposed to get a little bit of stress so you can react and respond. But when that stress pathway doesn't get shut off and it becomes chronic, it's really dangerous for our bodies and our mental health. So using cannabinoids, and again, it doesn't have to be THC, it could be CBD as well, to literally turn off that stress response and bring everything down. Inhalables have the quickest onset. So if you are feeling like that stress is coming on, using something that's fast acting, like smoking or vaping. And then if you don't want to use that, which is fine, a spray or sublingual will be the quickest to onset. Again, considering non-psychoactive cannabinoids, so you can stay out of stress throughout the day. A lot of us are using THC only and maybe saving it for nights and weekends. which is great, and definitely there's a place for that. But if we can do more, we should do more. And it's my job to tell you what else you can do, is starting your day off with something like a CBD, so you can stay ahead of that stress and just give your body physiologically a break. And THC can actually also cause some rebound anxiety. And I've had a number of patients over the years come to me with that concern. And what I like to do is match the CBD levels to the THC levels and then slowly start bringing down the THC. Also, what's really good for stress is incorporating a gratitude practice and some mindfulness. So maybe a couple of minutes in the morning, your lunch break, consider or just writing. Nerve inflammation. I know we're used to nerve inflammation. It's an inflammatory response in the brain or the spinal cord. Depression shows an increase in inflammatory markers. And the glial cells, which are like our immune cells of our central nervous system, actually have CB2 receptors on them. And when those are activated, it reduces neuroinflammation in the area. So that is huge. That's a big win for cannabinoid research, because there's really no pharmaceuticals that can do that. And even the CB1 receptors can affect neuroinflammation, but in an indirect way. Also, when we're talking about inflammation, and this goes for arthritis and other types of pain, is to really consider an anti-inflammatory diet. One of the first things that I'll tell patients, if you are interested in making dietary changes to improve your mental health as well as your physical health, cut out the dairy, cut out the sugar. That's the first step that you can take, and spend 3 to 5 weeks slowly cutting it out of your diet. Even fermented foods, introducing fermented foods like kombucha, for example, that's also really good for inflammation. And of course, lots of vegetables and fresh fruits. So neurogenesis is an exciting concept. It's actually that nerve cells are continuously generated within our central nervous system throughout our lives. And studies are showing, and research is showing, that loss of this process, so not making new nerve cells, can actually affect and cause development of depression. So the cannabinoid 1 and 2 receptors actually regulate this process, where nerve cells are continuously generated within our central nervous system. And administration, again, of CBD prevents those damaging effects of chronic stress, as I said earlier. But what it also does is increases the cell generation into parts of our brain. And what I like to kind of correlate that with is that maybe there is a chance of a new beginning. I know that when we are struggling with depression or depressive episode, it doesn't feel like anything is going to get better, and it doesn't feel like anything's going to be new or fresh again. So understanding now that we can make these new nerve cells, and it's kind of like welcoming a new beginning. So bringing a little positivity from the emotional aspect with the science. Okay, so these are some regimens that I wanted to share with everybody. And so when I work with patients, this is kind of what I might come up with. And these are some examples. So if you think about what this case study I showed you earlier, it's kind of like a 24/7 type of therapy, where, again, I don't want patients who are waking up in fight or flight, or if you're waking up with an incredible amount of stiffness from maybe a rheumatoid arthritis or a fibromyalgia. Don't wait till later in the day or the end of the day to treat your pain or to treat your mental health. We have these amazing resources in the program, right? Where if it's just CBD or if it's just THC, so you can really tailor it to what you need. So an example here on the left, for maybe someone with a low tolerance, someone who's never used cannabis before, for example. And remember, everything is dose dependent. So if you have a vape, you can take a 1 second puff, or you can take a 4 second puff. That's going to affect how it affects you. So low and slow always. So an example would be this for low tolerance, the CBD high potency drops that are currently available from CT Pharma are CBD only. There's no THC in them whatsoever. And 1 milliliter gives you 50 milligrams of CBD. So, I mean, I'm usually pretty comfortable. And again, you're going to speak to your pharmacist. We're going to look at your medication list. But just to give you the idea and the concept of what can be done, maybe a half ml morning and afternoon. I also like to tell patients to maybe take their dose as soon as their eyes open in the morning. So the start of your day can be better. And then if you start your day well, there's a very good chance you'll have a better day throughout the day. Currently, Curaleaf has a disposable vape. Yes, Tanya.
Oh, sorry to interrupt. Would you like me to ask this question when you're done with your thought?
Yeah, okay, I'll finish this. And you have a little bit of an echo. I just wanted to let you know.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. So they have the ivory strain, which is garlic, mushroom, onions, in a 1-to-1. So it's equal parts CBD, THC. The terpenes look really nice. So the terpenes have a high amount of beta caryophyllene and beta myrcene, which patients tell us is more of, gives you that indica feel. So that's more on the body and it's very relaxing. What I like about this product is that it also has 0.69% limonene. So limonene, you think of lemons, patients tell us that's very happy and joyous and gives you kind of that fresh feeling. We have a low dose THC oral spray. It's peppermint flavored from CT Pharma, and it's only 3 milligrams of THC per spray. So that's a pretty fair starting dose, I would say. And I think it's the lowest dose product that we have of THC by itself. So this is a great regimen for someone who doesn't perhaps want to vape too much and doesn't want to smoke at all. You can use the spray throughout the day or in the evening to help you start relaxing before bedtime. Have a nice dinner routine with your family, or if you have to study at night, just to get relaxed a little bit. And then maybe something like a T10 chewable tablet, which is 10 milligrams indica THC, would probably start a patient off at half, which is 5 milligrams, and slowly titrate up. Okay, Tanya, go ahead.
The question for you is, let me see. Can you still hear me?
I can, but the echo is a lot. Let me finish this and then
Sorry for the trouble. How about now?
Yeah. Oh, that's great now. Thank you, Tanya.
Better?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So someone is using the HH Ringe, but only needs to use half for the best result. Do you have another suggestion for a product to try instead?
Okay. So yeah, so HH Red, when you say half, I'm going to guess that it's half of the entire syringe. So HH Red is a great product. It's a great strain. It's Haley's Hope. It's about, usually comes out to 20 parts CBD, 1 part THC, which is proving to be a really great ratio for a lot of people. There isn't anything quite similar to the HH Red. And what's interesting about it, because it's not so potent, meaning, for example, CT Pharma has a CBD oil in a syringe that they put out called the Summit CBD RSO. And that's anywhere from like 750 to maybe 780 milligrams of CBD in 1 ml. And it has more THC in it. So it is more potent. So depending on the tolerance, I would say it might be a good idea to move to the Summit CBD RSO. Do it for 10 days straight and then really see what you like better, because it is a different strain. It has different cannabinoid profile and that different potency. I would say definitely try that and make notes of how you feel different, and then see which one you like better. And maybe keep the HH Red on hand. I feel like it has a different kind of kick to it for treating anxiety. We've worked a lot of wonders with that particular product, as we have with the Summit too. But I'm just curious if you want to try them both out and then see what the difference is for you. So I do have the HH Red listed here on the right for mid-range tolerance because it does have that touch of THC. 1/10 delivers 15 milligrams of CBD and just under 1 milligram of THC. So again, it's a really nice ratio. And a lot of times patients do really well with 2/10 first thing in the morning and maybe again in the afternoon. Now, talking about a sativa to help with motivation and for good and happy thoughts, Lexican is a great strain. That's the lemon skunk from CT Pharma. I would say it's probably been the most popular sativa strain for years in the Connecticut program. What I really like about the Lexican is that it always comes with some really nice balancing terpenes. So here you see what we would consider lots of indica-like terpenes, the beta caryophyllene, the linalool, and the beta myrcene. You're going to get that nice sativa feeling in your mind, but still have a nice relaxed body. Because also we don't want to increase anxiety at all, or our mind racing or overthinking. So this next product that I have is the Hybridol 5-to-1 THC CBN tablet. So we were just speaking about the CBN tablet. These are also sometimes available in a micro. which I think is about 5 milligrams of THC and 1 milligram of CBN. So be wary of which one you're getting, because this full-size tablet is 16.7 milligrams of THC, that's a healthy dose, and 3.3 of CBN. So maybe starting with a half or a quarter of this, depending on your tolerance, or just learning what the feel is like, and then slowly increasing from there. Great choice for the evening, again, to get through the dinner time. Right now, TheraPlant has the Indoti oral solution back out. It came out really potent, 1,112 milligrams of THC. Traditionally, the Indotis, you guys keep this in mind, please, it's important. 1 ml is like 28 to 29 milligrams of THC to like maybe 30, 31. This time, 1 ml is 37 milligrams of THC. So depending on when you're using it, you might have to start taking a little less of this new batch. And then this really nice indica vape from CT Pharma, the Borealix, that's the Northern Lights strain. Really nice heavy hitting indica, and this time it does have the terpenes to back it up. Got that linalool, the beta-myrcene, and the beta-caryophyllene. So with terpenes, you're looking at paying attention to anything that's over 0.2%. And then the more what we call sativa-like terpenes that patients have told us, limonene and pinene. And then the more indica-like or relaxing terpenes patients have told us, beta-caryophyllene, beta-myrcene, and linalool. All right, so higher tolerance. Here we see that Summit CBD RSO. That could be the CBD for morning and afternoon. Maybe the 1-to-1 oral syringe that we put patient DF on. And there's the Indicol Select Blend Rhythm Vape from AGL right now. This is a blend of a bunch of their indica flowers. It always comes out with really a great amount of a terpene variety in higher quantities. So you're looking at a lot of limonene, so you're going to have that happy joy feeling from what patients tell us, but then also that linalool. Linalool, we think of lavender. So what patients tell us that it's calming without necessarily being sleepy. So that's nice. Got the beta-myrcene, beta-caryophyllene, and that humulane and the neurolidol are really great for anti-inflammatory functions. And then again, that Indicol AB full spectrum syringe, which is a nice, very potent THC syringe, oil in a 1 ml syringe. And I believe CT Pharma is going to be having their RSO back soon as well. It's not going to be Fjord D this time. I think it's going to be the Culpovec flower, they were saying. So keep an eye on that. And the Summit CBD RSOs should be back this week as well. All right, we can pause for some questions, or we can do some from the RSVPs. That sound good?
Yeah, I got a question for you, Isma. This is Glenn. When you talk about the Summit, are you talking about the small vape that they had, the Summit vape, the CT Pharma, the blue one?
No, so yeah, so they have a line of their CBD products called Summit. So they do come out with so they do come with the vape, which is 4-to-1, 5-to-1. I think it even came out 8-to-1. So that's 8 parts CBD, 1 part THC. So that's a really great choice if you are looking to vape, have something more immediate, right? Because it works so quickly and not too much THC in it. The Summit CBD RSO is a full spectrum CBD oil that they put and package into a syringe to use orally.
Oh, okay. I didn't know they carried that one. I have the Summit vape, the blue one, but I didn't know they carried it's in a tanker. Is that what you're saying?
It's in a tanker. Yeah, it is. And again, we should be getting it. CT Pharma should be releasing that again shortly. Okay. So let's do, thank you, Glenn. Let's do some questions from the RSVP. So a patient was talking about his or her rheumatoid arthritis, lots of inflammation and pain. So some of the products from the dispensary, you're going to get relief from the inflammation. And I say it's kind of like when you take something for your cholesterol. You take your Lipitor every day, you don't necessarily feel your cholesterol going down. So same thing with products like CBD or CBN for inflammation. You're not going to necessarily feel it as soon as you take it. And so a lot of times we think we're getting something from the dispensary, it should make us feel good right away. So that's kind of the marathon and the sprint approach. So maybe taking your CBD every day in consistent consecutive dosing is the marathon approach to decreasing your inflammation, and maybe something a little bit stronger that doesn't last as long for immediate pain relief. So that could look like a combination of THC, for example. But definitely with the rheumatoid arthritis, there's a lot that we can do, and a lot to learn about with how the endocannabinoid system plays a part in autoimmune arthritises. And especially with rheumatoid arthritis, there's that bone destruction component, and we do have a fully functioning endocannabinoid system within our bones. So it's pretty interesting. So I would say a lot of these practices that I was just describing, taking that CBD every day, and then working with your pharmacist to find something that's right for you for immediate flares. The components that help with inflammation, I mean, THC has been proven to be 80 times more potent of an anti-inflammatory than aspirin and 2 times more potent of an anti-inflammatory than hydrocortisone. CBD is also a very powerful anti-inflammatory. I just haven't seen steady results like that comparison with the THC. So I would say definitely a combination. Generally speaking, a lot of people do very well with a 1-to-1 ratio. Again, that's going to be depending on tolerance. So if 1-to-1 gets you out of pain and you feel great, but you have that psychoactive effect and you can only use it on nights and weekends, I would invite you to use a CBD only product during the day. Okay, and this was a great question. What do you recommend, what process or methodology do you recommend in discontinuing a benzodiazepine and migrating over to CBD or other non-THC products? So this is a great question because we've helped hundreds, if not thousands of patients since the program started in Connecticut get off of their benzos. It's really one of such a common goal for so many people. So I think we have a good system on how to do it, a good system on how to do it. So first, using the products from the dispensary to treat your symptoms that you're taking the benzodiazepine for.
I canceled the other account.
Yeah. So that could be anxiety. That could be you're taking it for maybe some type of social anxiety, whatever, or insomnia, maybe you're only taking it at night. So treating those symptoms first, getting you to that comfortable place, and then doing a very slow taper off of the benzo and perhaps working with your physician who prescribes it to make sure we're all on the same page. So if you're just starting cannabis or just starting new products or new regimen from the dispensary, don't immediately start cutting down your benzos. First, get to a comfortable place. The cannabinoids will offset the withdrawal effects of the benzos, but we also want to make sure that your symptoms are being addressed. So you're not struggling to tackle more than one thing at once. Does that make sense? Okay.
Buzz, we have a question from the chat.
Great.
What are the best strains and terps for motivation?
Okay, great. So that's going to be the next slide. So we'll talk about that now. So here, you guys can see my screen, right? I'm here talking about some sativa flowers. Sativas are a really great option if you're looking for some motivation, if you're looking to start exercising but just can't get quite to the gym, or really just walk over to the yoga mat, and also help with focus and help with mood. That being said, any type of cannabis, whether it's sativa, hybrid, or indica, if you use too much of it, and meaning that's just a dose that's a little too high for you, you might still end up on the couch. So if 4 puffs gets you kind of feeling that medicated feeling, I invite you to explore how you do on 3 puffs. So maybe shorter pulls, less pulls, and see if you can enjoy that, combining it with some of the self-care practices that we talk about. So some of the terpenes that we want to look for. Now, if there's any pain involved, so if there's physical pain, for example, with an autoimmune arthritis or another inflammatory condition, and there's depression, and you're looking to exercise, I do like the idea of a sativa strain with what I was referring to earlier as those indica-like terpenes. And that's what we see here. We've got the Cerezavec flower from CT Pharma. It's cherry punch, cherry AK-47, and purple punch. It's about 29%, 26% THC, which is fairly strong. So let's look at the terpenes. You've got the beta-caryophyllene and the beta-myrcene, which is going to help with aches and pains, but it also has that limonene in there that's going to help with your motivation and your joy and just generally feeling good. So that's a great choice for someone with a pain condition or dealing with pain and some depression and lack of motivation to get you moving. Then I also have featured the Sangrica, which is a pure original sour diesel. It's from Theraplant. I like the 24% THC. I think it gives you more flexibility. And then again, really great sativa strain, but has some indica-like terpenes. You get that relaxed, nice feel in your body, but your mind feels positive and motivated. I hope that answered the question. How long should a medical patient need to wait to actually feel the medical benefits of a new strain? So if we're being strain specific, it's probably going to be something that you're inhaling. So it's going to be a flower or it's going to be a vape. So you really should feel that benefit within the first 15 minutes. And then if that feeling lasts for 3 to 4 hours, depending on how much you inhale, you should be able to enjoy that the entire, so it should be immediate. Sometimes when we're looking at CBD, which is more of an abstract feeling, when you know how I always say, it's what you don't feel, not what you do feel. With CBD, pay attention to what it takes away. That is something that can take a little bit longer. And with consistent and consecutive dosing, we have patients that if it doesn't make them feel better the first day, it's usually by the 4th day or by the end of like the 10th day. When you really stick to it, we see some pretty profound results. And then product recommendations for nausea from some Pfizer pharmaceuticals. And this was really great. And I wanted to thank the person, whoever wrote this, for sharing this. You have helped me reduce my pharmacy prescriptions by 4 products. Thank you. 6 more to work out of my system. Thank you again for your help and patience with my medical situation and needs. So I'm going to applaud because that is amazing. We love working with patients to help them reach their outcomes here and their goals. So with nausea, we're going to be talking on the next slide here. Actually, I think I have it here. Hybrids are generally, a rule of thumb, are really good for nausea. And again, it's also helpful to stay ahead of the nausea if it's chronic. So taking a low dose of something every day, and maybe if the nausea kicks in, maybe hitting an indica vape or any type of a vape to get out of that danger zone of the nausea. So hybrid, I have the consumables listed here. Great for appetite. I know a lot of us, when we're depressed, we can't eat and we have no appetite. Also good for nausea, that sick stomach feeling. And also, again, like from the question, if you're taking a lot of medications and the side effects are making you nauseous, also great for mood. So AGL right now has THC CBD gummies. You get a pack of 20. There's 4 milligrams of THC and 6.6 milligrams of CBD per gummy. TheraPlant has their great line of capsules. Their hybrids are called the Pagodi. And the 10 milligrams, again, make sure you know what your dose is. I generally like to start people off at 3 to 5 milligrams. This is an example of the 10 milligram capsule size. And Curaleaf has the Select Squeeze in different flavors. You just squeeze the bottle, it fills up the reservoir to 1 milliliter, which has about 5 milligrams of THC, and you can put it in any beverage you want and consume it that way. So those are some options. And then I just wanted to review 2 vapes here, indica vapes. Indica doesn't always necessarily mean for sleep. Again, it's dose dependent. Try to get more usage out of your products. So maybe, again, if 4 or 5 long hits gets you to fall asleep, maybe 2 or 3 quicker hits can get you out of some negative thinking or a cranky mood, or if you're really just feeling irritable and irritated or panic. So the indica vape, this is the Nuvidin from CT Pharma. The lineage or the strain is called Cherry on Top. And then the terpenes match. You know, you've got the beta caryophyllene, the linalool, and the myrcene. It's going to be a very relaxing product. The Johannes Pure from TheraPlant. That's a kind of old classic Connecticut strain. They've been making it for quite some time. Dog's Waltz and the White. And this one, if you see here, it's got a fair amount of limonene. So I would say this will probably make you really happy before you fall asleep. Okay, I think we're doing well. It's 8 o'clock. Okay, terpene suggestions for uplifting and energy. Again, be careful with how much you use, because too much of anything might put you on the couch for a while. But look for limonene and pinene. That's what patients come back and tell us are good for motivation and energy. And also, if you feel very fatigued and you're just tired all the time, whether you're sleeping or you're not sleeping, that's also inflammation. That's also an inflammatory response. So just more reasons why it's a good idea to speak with your pharmacist at your dispensary, make that appointment. So just in case anyone isn't familiar, each of our 3 locations, so that's Prime Wellness in South Windsor, the Botanist Danbury, and the Botanist Montville, we do offer additional free consultations. They're usually done over the phone to help you work out your regimen. Maybe you have a new diagnosis. Maybe you started a new prescription medication. Maybe you just finished up with a new prescription medication. Come and talk to us because we want to help you through it. Benefits of CBD oil and overall health. I think I kind of touched on that. It's really great, again, as an anti-inflammatory, a great regulator of so many of our physiological functions, and seems to do a little bit more in the body than just THC. And with THC, when we talk about the way the endocannabinoid system plays a part in regulating so many of our physiological functions, keep in mind that a 92 or 94% THC distillate cartridge, for example, isn't really what we're referring to when we're talking about how to like gently supplement the endocannabinoid system. So just keep that in mind. I always find that, THC absolutely has its place, but using something, other parts of the plant too, to help keep you grounded and protected. So that's the CBD, the CBN, or the THCA. Okay. And now I have a little bit of a post-it challenge. So remember, it's really great to use the cannabis to get to the point where you can start doing that hard work to heal. Maybe you've been working with a therapist or a counselor, or you're reading these self-help group books, or you're listening to meditation apps, and you're just not quite getting to where you want to be. Combine it. So again, medicating with intention, perhaps doing a meditation while you're medicated, and then using the right products for stillness so you can focus on the good that comes along throughout the day. So some examples: I got this. Am I good enough? Yes, I am. And if anybody wants to put mantras in the chat, I would love that. Glimmer and glow all day. So that's talking about what we mentioned with PTSD, to notice those glimmers, notice those really nice moments. It's something that we connect with. And remembering that we are all connected. And again, depression can be so isolating and lonely. So let's just all put our good energy out there for one another, so we can pull ourselves out of this. I am fierce and kind. I am worth it. My light shines bright. And even when it's hard, I'm grateful, I'm patient, and I'm present. So I definitely invite you guys to write some mantras on sticky notes, stick them up on your bathroom mirror. I had a rough couple of years not too long ago, and all of these really helped me get through it. And the Post-it notes were really fun too. And you can guess one of them is actually mine that I use. Okay, and I'll take some more questions and answers. Yeah.
We do have one more question in the chat.
Uh-huh.
They're wondering what terpene would help with overeating.
Okay. All right. So when we talk about, I guess, like getting the munchies from cannabis. So the first thing that I'm going to say is that if you don't buy it, you won't eat it, right? So if you make sure you have healthy snacks and healthy choices before you medicate at home, that's probably the best way to avoid eating something that you don't want to eat. I'm not familiar with a specific terpene that's an appetite suppressant. There could be some cannabinoids that we don't really see in high quantities in any of the products that may be considered an appetite suppressant. So I'll have to say that there's nothing really there's certain strains, I think, that can make one more hungry than others, but not necessarily any rule of thumb. I will say that cannabis, as we've learned, is a regulator of so many of our physiological functions. It plays a major part in our energy and metabolism. So the way we create energy and the way we metabolize our foods and everything else, your endocannabinoid system plays a major role in regulating that. So much so to the fact that I have seen so many patients start on the program and end up losing weight in 3 to 6 months to a very healthy weight. So remembering that, yeah, you may be eating a lot more. If you try to eat healthy foods, it should balance out with the way the endocannabinoid system works. Yes, Tanya, do you have another question?
I'm sorry, no other question in the chat at this time.
Okay, great. Okay. And then I wanted to leave everybody with this. So tonight we've taken a really great step together because coming out of depression is incredibly hard. And at each of our dispensaries, we really do try to acknowledge what we're all going through and understand that when you walk through our doors, there is a real reason behind it. And we do care and we never judge. So always feel comfortable being yourself. So tonight we have taken the step to realize that we are infinitely greater than we once thought. So the divine light in me honors the divine light in each and every one of you. And let's all keep shining bright together.
Thank you. We have a hand that popped up.
Okay, great.
It wasn't put in the chat, but the floor is yours if you want to ask your question.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, I'm sorry. This is the first time I'm attending, so I'm also trying to like navigate through the.
Sure. Well, welcome. Thank you for joining.
No, it's actually been fascinating and very informative. I wanted to go back to as far as you were talking about appetite, or someone had mentioned it or was curious about it. As far as the terpene, I was told, I mean, I have kind of like the opposite just because of the nature of my diagnosis. So I always have a problem having appetite, but I was told that humulene is sort of suppresses the appetite a bit, or doesn't make it so active.
So I haven't heard that.
I was
that
told
doesn't,
that
I mean, it,
at my dispense,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's great. I haven't, I'm not familiar with that. I am going to look into it. And I would say that it also, so how much humulene are you going to get in a particular product? That I think that, so terpenes, and when I do talk about terpenes, this is kind of what I say, right? That the point of the terpene, and it's created by the plant to protect the plant from whether it's like a fungus or insects or something. So it's just like when we eat fruits and vegetables, we get these small amounts that help protect us, right? So basically, if you eat an orange every day, you might not get a cold as frequently, but if you have a cold and you eat 20 oranges, that's not going to stop your cold. You get it? So that little bit of humulene that might be in a vape or a flower might not be enough of a dose to actually affect your appetite. So it's dose dependent sometimes when it comes to terpenes, and I don't think we know how much humulene one would need to suppress our appetite.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. Oh no, it makes perfect sense. I mean, absolutely. And yeah, so and I mean, I don't pretend, I'm literally, that's why this is fascinating, and just it's really blows my mind because it is so individual, and like you said, everybody and the dosage, and so just trying to find I mean, obviously it's a little bit of a journey.
Yeah, it is. It's a beautiful journey. And when you welcome it as a journey, it makes it easier to continue. So it's not like, I'm going to take this for 2 to 4 weeks and my doctor said I'm going to be better. It's like, okay, I took this for 2 weeks. This is what I'm seeing improved. It's almost like, peeling a layer of an onion, right? You solve one thing, then there's something else you take care of, and we keep working together to get that. That's
Correct.
great. Thank you, Harmony.
Thank you.
I have another question from the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any terpenes that should be avoided to prevent overthinking?
Yeah. So our patients have come back and told us that pinene. So pinene, if you have a lot of anxiety or you tend to overthink, pinene is something that you should avoid, especially if it's a lot of it and not many other indica-like terpenes to kind of balance them out. And then also with overthinking, I think someone had sent in a question about not being able to sleep at night because your mind is racing. And that's something that a lot of us deal with. 100%, I would say, use something during the day. Chances are your mind is racing all day, but at night you hear it the most, right? Because everything else is quiet. So using something during the day, keeping your nervous system a little bit more calm, using something in the evening, even that's a little bit stronger, a couple of hours before bedtime, before you take what you're going to use to actually put you to sleep, to help just wind down the overthinking, the mind racing, that chronic stress, right? That's where that's coming from, staying ahead of that.
We've got another.
Okay. Wait, I see some questions. Let me go through them, Tanya.
I see it here.
Okay, so the question about sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, it's okay. There's a couple through there. The
Yeah.
most recent one is, would you suggest cannabis while fasting during a water fast, for example?
I think my question is, what is the goal of the fast? And is a water fast means you only drink water? And for how long and why? So that's my first question.
All right, I'll let you know if the answer comes up.
Okay, all right.
In the meantime, is there a product that has equal parts of THC, CBD, and CBN?
Currently, unfortunately not. And that's why you'll see in these regimens, and when I start talking about things, it's like, okay, this is the CBN product and this is the CBD product. And that's because the full spectrum products are usually too potent in THC, and then it's hard to tolerate because they are just so potent and they're so psychoactive. So you have to do them separately. And sometimes that's nice because then you can treat yourself throughout the day and always stay ahead of your symptoms. You're welcome, Nadine. All right, so before we wrap up, you guys please take the survey. Your feedback really means a lot to us. Again, next month, we're going to talk about medical marijuana and adult use in Connecticut. And so any questions that you have, please let us know, because we do want to make the transition, right? Our medical patients having a really different vibe in the facility, making sure you're comfortable and you're protected. And also for our adult use guests who are interested in the medical program, please let us know. We'd love to assist you on getting your medical marijuana card. The menus and the product availabilities are very different. So the adult use menu and the medical menu are very different. You're not going to see a lot of these products that I spoke about tonight on that adult use menu. So if you're looking to take advantage of some of the other products, we do invite you to explore getting your medical marijuana card, and Tanya and I can both help you with that. Okay, everybody, yeah, fill out that survey. Let us know what ideas you have, what you want to hear more about. And please, if you're interested in figuring out what regimen would work best for you, do not hesitate to make that consultation appointment with any of the pharmacists at your dispensaries. And if you go to a different dispensary, we will be happy to assist you with your journey as well, do a consultation. We just ask that you pick up at one of our facilities. All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone. It's my honor. I love doing these.
Thank you so much. Awesome.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Hi, Rob. I see you.
Thank you, Uzma. Have a good night.
All right, great, everyone. Thank you.
Gonna plug the guitar in now. Thank you so much.
Play a few songs.
Yeah, gotta rock the night. Absolutely. Awesome presentation.
Thank you. Thanks, Glenn. Thanks for all the support.
They get better and better and better and better and better.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Okay, someone asked the question, can you use medical cannabis and adult use cannabis? Yeah, but I can't imagine you'd want to pay those taxes on the adult use side if you have your card.
Perfect. Perfect. While I got you listening, is the 12th and the 19th good for you, for us to talk?
I'll write it down and I'll check.
Yeah,
and I'll shoot you a message. May 12th or what?
Or the 19th.
Okay. I know May 20th and 21st is Expo Canna, so May 12th might be better. But let me check. I have to check my kids' schedules too, you know. Okay. That's a whole nother calendar.
Just let me know so we can send you an invite to the
Okay.
podcast. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Rob. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it.
Very welcome.
Thank you.
Yo, Glenn, give us some beats, Glenn. Can you hear us?
Uh-oh, Glenn's frozen. Maybe he'll come back. Sometimes he plays a couple of things.
Blessing Uzma, may I do that follow-up question about the fasting?
Yes, please. Hello, Calvin. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Actually, I'm following you on Instagram as Thank the Most High, so I really appreciate what you've been doing and the information that you're sharing. It's really, really incredible. So a friend of mine was asking me to ask you this question for her. She's doing a water fast for spiritual reasons, a spiritual cleansing. I know for myself, when I did my first fast, I did it for about 11 days, and cannabis was still part of my process. So actually, I didn't really feel the hunger side of it or the munchies part. I don't know why that was, but she's asking for her own specific, reason. She might be doing it for like 3 to 7 days,
Okay.
and looking, and it's gonna be CBD. She didn't. I said cannabis, but it's gonna be CBD that she'll be using. So you're.
Yeah, I think that it sounds like it's a personal spiritual journey. And if it's her intuition, that's something that she wants to incorporate to help her with that spiritual cleanse or maybe feel a closer connection, to her creator, I'm all for that. Completely. It's a personal choice. And I think that, again, it's combining cannabis, whether it's CBD or THC, with our spiritual practice, with our self-care practices, with our gratitude practices, and really understanding that it's a sacred plant that we can use to expand our consciousness and really realize how we're connected to nature and to each other, and that we're not alone. We go through these periods of isolation, and we pray for one another that we can come back out of it. I think that sounds like it could be a beautiful journey for her. I'd like to hear how it goes.
I will definitely inform you of that. I know when I finished my fasting and that journey, that's when I was called to start writing and becoming a writer and start studying the holy books with the same energy and focus that I used to study astrology, both tropical and sidereal. So it would like that fasting in that moment really took me to a whole different place myself. And that's why I give advice for, clients and such like that. So it's incredible to actually hear it from an individual from the science community, but also well aware of the spiritual community as well. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. Okay, great, everybody. I think we can wrap up. Please fill out the survey. We'll make sure that you have your points by the end of the day tomorrow. And thank you for everything. I appreciate each and every single one of you. Okay, good night.